Beloved Madridistas, welcome back. Welcome back to Madrid. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Santiago Bernabeu, just outside the balcony on a really, really pleasant day here in Madrid. Look, we're going to do a match analysis of the Osasuna match. We're going to do player ratings. But I'm going to coin a new term today, okay? You didn't hear it on ESPN. You didn't hear it on CBS or Sky Sports. You heard it here first. Football roofie, okay? Rufalin is a drug, nicknamed roofie, and you guys may have heard of it. I think they call it the date rape drug or something. It's a drug that incapacitates people, and I'm very, very concerned that La Liga is becoming football roofie. Some of the teams that we play are so poor, the opposition is so weak that the level of competitiveness at La Liga is declining, and I'm very, very concerned that over time this will affect the competitiveness of Real Madrid. We are the kings of world football, and we will remain the kings of world football, but it's so important for us to remain competitive, and I'm just a little bit concerned that La Liga is turning into football roofie. You're playing against these incapacitated opposition, and over time, I think it's just going to weaken us. But anyway, we're going to do player ratings. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the Osasuna match. A lot of really, really interesting, notes that we have to take here. And then I have a minor correction about the previous video I made about the Champions League draw, which I called the draw from hell. So just a minor correction there. But thank you for joining me. As always, I love you guys. Let's get started. Okay, welcome back, my beloved Madridista family all over the world. I think we're in like 93 countries now, so thanks for joining. All right, let's get. The first thing I want to get out of the way is just a minor correction on the previous video I did in the Champions League draw. We did. It was such a horrible draw. We did numbers. What are the chances of getting such a horrendous path? Right, not just Man City, but the first game at home. And then you have to play against the worst possible pair of the three that are left, against Bayern Munich, Arsenal. And we kind of did numbers. But one important correction, if we get past Man City in the semifinal, the return leg is at home. So it is a horrible draw, but it's not horrible to the tune of 1 in 84. It's horrible to the tune of 1 in 42. So that's the probability of this particular path. But I wanted to make that correction. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch the previous video. But anyway, let's get started. Look, this was a very solid match. I think we played, very well. But like I mentioned in my intro, I think, Osasuna is it's just very poor opposition. I mean, look, we played very, very well, but, these matches, don't particularly thrill me because I just found the competitive, the rival, I found them very, very weak. But let's go through player ratings. I'll give you my thoughts. Okay, Lunin, I'm going to give a 6. He didn't have a huge amount of work to do. I thought he was okay in the air on a couple of occasions. I think he was fine. Didn't have too much to do, but he did take in 2 goals. I mean, I'm going to give him a 6, but, there's not a lot of data behind that grade. Okay, Carvajal, I'm going to say 7. He did make a mistake on one of the goals, but I think overall, he played a pretty serious game. I mean, he always works very, very hard. And of course, he scored a really, really wonderful goal. A very nice weighted, kind of lob shot with his right foot. So overall, I think solid game. And of course, when you get a goal out of a right back, you have to take that into account. So I'm going to say 7. Tchouaméni, I'm going to say 7. Now, he played in the central back position again. And the truth is he is getting better and better at this. Okay, he's much more, he's getting more comfortable in this position. He is more commanding in the air. Like, if you compare Tchouaméni to the other option, which would be Nacho, Tchouaméni is just a much more commanding player. I think he's stronger in the air, and even not just defending but also taking the ball out. I think his playing the ball out of defense. I think is doing a very, very good job at that out of a defensive position. So I think, look, this is a great resource that we have. Tchouaméni is one of those players that you can use in so many different ways. So I'm going to give him a 7. I thought he did very well. Rudiger is going to get an 8. Okay, now Rudiger is just such a commanding physical presence. This was a real blessing. Rudiger's arrival to Real Madrid was a real blessing, and he's made such an enormous contribution in a year where we've had so many injuries. I think he was wonderful. High energy, and by the way, his ball distribution, which in the past I have slightly criticize Rudiger sometimes in terms of his distribution, but yesterday he did a wonderful job. I thought his distribution, ball distribution, long passes, short passes, I think he did a wonderful job, and he was just so commanding in defense. So Rudiger's gonna get an 8. I think very well deserved. Okay, Mendy's gonna get a 5. And I mean, Mendy sometimes takes too much risk. Okay, he sometimes holds the ball too long in defensive positions when he's being pressed. He tends to, dribble in places where you shouldn't dribble, and you're surrounded by, attackers that are pressing you. And I think sometimes he takes too much risk, and he did lose a couple of balls because of this. So I'm going to say, a 5. He was also a little bit slow playing the ball out. So, mediocre performance, I would say, by Mendy. So he's going to get a 5. Camavinga is going to get a 7. He's always wonderful, and I think his first 30 minutes were extremely good. I mean, this was it felt like carrying on from the previous match. He's just, high energy, stealing balls, distributing, but, really high energy. It's kind of everywhere. But he did slow down a tiny little bit, I think, after the first 30 minutes. But overall, again, a wonderful performance from a player who's, always making a really positive contribution. Okay, Toni Kroos, I'm going to say 6. And not because he had a poor performance, but it's just not the kind of game where he stands out. So if you're playing a game, we have very long possessions, and the other team is kind of defending very far back, and it's not a game where Toni Kroos makes as much of a difference as he does when there's chaos. Like Toni Kroos is a bastion of common sense in a world of chaos. So in games that are very quick back and forth, that are very kind of chaotic, Toni Kroos always brings, kind of sanity and stability in his distribution. It kind of calms everything down. But in a game like this, he just kind of stands out a little bit less. But I think he had a decent game. So I'm going to say 6. Fede Valverde is a 9. Okay, this was another ridiculously good performance by, the most consistent player all year long. Fede gets a 9. He had 3 assists. His work rate was absolutely fabulous. I don't know where he gets the energy. He's never injured. He's always the player that runs the most in the entire team. He even took 3 shots from outside the box, which I think is something Ancelotti really wants him to do. And of course, he's wonderful in the middle of the pitch. I mean, before, I think last year, he tended to just stay to the right a lot. I mean, now he's bringing the ball into the middle much more, and I think it's making a really fantastic contribution. So Fede gets a 9 because he's just incredible. Okay, Brahim, I'm going to say 8. He created a huge amount of danger. He's just a very destabilizing player. He gets out of trouble quickly. He's very quick. He's very creative. He creates a lot of danger, and he's been very consistent. The goal was fantastic. Now, he's playing in the wrong position, okay? He's playing in the wrong position. Ancelotti is playing him in a midfield position because Jude is out, and Ancelotti insists on playing Rodrigo. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Rodrigo needs to play up front on the right, period, okay? He needs to take players on one-on-one, but he had a great game, and he's a wonderful player, but I think he's playing in the wrong position. But despite that, I give him an 8 because he had a wonderful game and a wonderful goal. Okay, Rodrigo is going to get a 4. And this is the second week in a row that we have to give Rodrigo a 4. Now, Ancelotti is starting to play with fire here because, Rodrigo, his form has been declining very gradually, very steadily. And Ancelotti insists on playing him in a position where I think now Brahim would do a better job. It's just disappointing. The only times that Rodrigo really felt dangerous was when he switched and played on the left. When Vini came into the middle, he would swap over to the left, and he did create danger on a couple of occasions. But overall, I think a poor performance. We expect a lot more from this player, and he's taking minutes away from Brahim in that position, who I think would do a much, much better job. So Rodrigo gets a 4, and the poorest player as far as I'm concerned. Okay, Bini's going to get a 9. He had a spectacular game. I mean, Bini is a nightmare. I mean, I would hate to have to defend against him. He's so high energy, so creative, so destabilizing. He just keeps going. He comes at you over and over and over. Brilliant goals, absolutely brilliant goals. And listen, it's a 9. It would have been a 10 if it weren't for one very, very clear opportunity that he missed one-on-one that honestly he should have done more with. And then the stupid, unnecessary yellow card at the end of the match. I mean, a brilliant game. He gets a 9 and he doesn't get a 10 because of those two things. Now, Ancelotti, we have to talk about Ancelotti. I'm going to give him a 6. The lineup made a lot of sense, and I agree with it. But, he's playing Brahim in the wrong position. He's insisting too much on Rodrigo. I think Brahim needs to play up front, on the right, in the wing, one-on-one, taking defenders on. He's insisting on Rodrigo, and this is starting to become a problem. And I listened to all the YouTubers here, and we're starting to get a little pissed off about this. To substitute, he should have substituted Rodrigo, not Brahim first. It's just, and by the way, why do you bring Arda Güler in so late? We're in total control of the match. We're in total control of La Liga. Everything is under control. Why do you give this kid so few minutes? And Arda Güler almost scored one of the most incredible goals of the year. And by 3 inches, if that ball had been 3 inches lower, it would have been the goal of the year. This kid is good, and this kid needs minutes. And Ancelotti, when you have the league in the bag and you have a game in the bag, what are you doing waiting until the end of the match to play Arda Güler? He should have come in much earlier. So for my Turkish subscribers out there, Arda's amazing, and he needs to get more minutes. So congratulations on a stellar player. So anyway, listen, those are my thoughts and ratings on the match. Again, I'm very, very concerned about the roofie. La Liga is football roofie. About these teams that are just so weak that I think over time, I'm very worried this might affect us negatively. But anyway, listen, those are my thoughts. Thank you guys, as always, for listening to me, for liking, for subscribing, and all that. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. But listen, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. And as always, a la Madrid.